This program is brought to you by MCN, delivering a better advertising experience.
Hello, I'm Kate Williams and welcome to Media Week. Ahead on the program, the Australian Financial Review magazine forced to make a late cover change. Plus, are Australian viewers hard to hook? Netflix certainly thinks so. All the details on that coming up. But first, it's been a good year for the Lachlan Murdoch-owned Nova Entertainment. The radio broadcaster's new Sydney brand, Smooth FM, is the #1 FM station. Nova's drive show, Kate, Tim and Marty, is even ranking #1 despite the return of Hamish and Andy. The new figures will reveal next week if they've managed to hold on to that position. Joining us in the studio now is Nova Entertainment Group Chief Executive Cathy O'Connor, and with new executives at the Southern Cross Stereo, ARN and also soon to be at Macquarie Radio, Cathy is the longest serving radio CEO, and of course James from Mediaweek joining us as always. Cathy, thanks so much for being on the program. Sure. We appreciate it. First of all, we do have a new communications minister, so I did want to quickly ask you, is there a wish list in terms of radio at all?
Oh, that's a good question. Well, I think we've always had good dialogue with the Minister over the issues that affect radio. For us, obviously digital radio is an ongoing journey for the industry. We've got digital now well entrenched in the capital cities, and we're starting to release research over, some of the reach of the new services that we've provided, but it's not yet in regional areas in Australia, so that's still an entire regulatory regime that's not yet decided, and obviously we want some good dialogue around that. I think probably as a general comment, radio is a pretty highly regulated medium. We've been encouraged with the former minister that there was a lot of talk around less onerous regulation, particularly on regional radio stations, which essentially are often small businesses. So any dialogue that we can continue along those very productive lines, I think, will be a good thing.
Yeah, so the free-to-air TV players make a lot of noise. It seems to lead the running in, I guess, in subscription TV too, they'll be pretty hard for anti-siphoning and stuff like that. But radio's not really out there at that forefront, so they're reasonably happy with the media laws. I mean, if they change much, could it materially affect your business, do you think?
Look, I think any change in regulation, history would suggest causes some form of change or consolidation in an industry. The thing I would say about the radio sector is it's very successful. The assets are very tightly held, and there's good reason for that. We're all having a good time and showing good growth and good return for investors. So I think it would be logical to assume that in the event of a regulation change, we would see some impact on the radio industry, but in what form that would take and when that would happen, if it happens, is not really something I could probably speculate on today.
And certainly Lachlan Murdoch, one of his best investments has been in radio. How involved will he be with a relocation to the United States?
Well, like any board, I think he's very passionate about the business and always been very supportive, and still play a very, very good role and guide us, support us as he has to invest in the right things and build the right brands, and hopefully we'll keep the successful journey going that we've had, and to the extent that he may not physically be living in the country, he's certainly no less visible to me and no less access, so that's a good thing.
This choice in management seems pretty good. You and your team seem to be doing a pretty good job. #1 FM station in Sydney at the moment, Smooth FM. We had you on when the station launched. Doesn't sound that long ago, but I guess it's just over 2 years. It's a reasonably quick trip to the top, isn't it?
Yeah, well, I think you could say that. It's been a great journey with Smooth. I think when we were here, 2 and a bit years ago, we talked about a brand that was different. We wanted to do some different things in the sector. We felt that there was an opportunity for this contemporary, easy listening brand, and in actual fact that there was and there is. I think the big thing that I've been encouraged about is that to this day it's still a very differentiated product. So radio, it's a pretty competitive sector, but we are absolutely unique. We have a high point of differentiation. Our music is quite distinct, and the way that we promote and the sort of attributes we build around the brand are quite distinct. There really is no other radio station like Smooth in commercial FM. So I think for that reason we've been able to build an audience, and it's a loyal audience. And it's a 700,000 plus audience in Sydney and Melbourne, and over that space of time that in anyone's book is really rapid progress, so we're encouraged.
It does have a lower cost base, so what does that mean? More profits or cheaper ads? How does that work?
It's a very nice little model, I must say. So it certainly has, you know, a lot of contributors to the brand, but we built, you know, as the last FM station in a big city, we were able to build it with the end in mind. So we invest a lot in talent on the Nova network, as you would know, and that's a very successful way to run your business, and of course advertisers love the association they get with talent. Again, Smooth, it was about how do we bring talent and big names to the station perhaps in a different way. So we have a cast of really high-profile people, even the recording artists themselves at times doing programs. So we have Olivia Newton-John, Tina Arena doing programs on the weekend at the moment. So it has no less star power, but perhaps it's achieved in a slightly different way. And then, of course, the music really is the star of Smooth, which is, you know, the station that we designed.
Tell us about the competition, because it almost seems more competition now for the older listener, because you've got the traditional AM broadcasters who trend very strongly, you know, 40 plus, but you've now got, you know, revitalised Triple M. Some of those stations are, you know, 40 plus, I guess. Pure Gold, which is they've spent a lot of money on and seems to be performing very well. Does that make your achievements all the more notable?
I think what we're seeing in the 35 plus audience is some well-defined radio brands. So be it Triple M or the Gold brand in Melbourne and WS in Sydney, or the Smooth brand, I think they all have very clear propositions for listeners. And that's a great thing for the industry, because it means together we're spanning across a divergent group and, you know, all building together. And it's no surprise that radio audiences are in growth, because I think there is some very good programming going on, and we're not all trying to sort of do the same things in that 35 plus market. So be it talk sport, be it Gold and easy listening, you know, there are lots of options. That's a good thing.
Nova seems more successful outside Sydney and Melbourne. Why is that, do you think?
Well, Nova's a national brand, so I think the beauty of a national brand is that any time when you're talking to a national advertiser, you're talking in aggregate about your reach across the country. Of course, in any market, stations will go up and down depending on lots of things: competitive factors, on-air factors, talent factors, music factors and marketing factors. So there are so many things that drive ratings. But Nova remains a very strong #1 under 40s brand, regardless of whether it's #1 or #3 in a city. And I think that's really the power of Nova.
You seem to be transitioning Nova Entertainment into much more than just a radio offering. I think we've talked about the Smooth Festival of Chocolate, which you held recently. So tell us about that. How far down that path are you, and what might happen next?
Well, I think we're seeing in the radio sector that all networks are really building brands. And the beauty of having such a big broadcast audience is you drive digital behaviours really well. So whether it's through Facebook communities, whether it's just your website traffic, your Instagram followings and so forth, Nova, if we take that example, is now much more than just audio. And of course, I don't know that the media industry broadly or the marketing community really understands the power, the digital power of radio brands. So if you look at the top 20 entertainment publishers in this country, all the big radio brands are in there, because in terms of average daily unique browsers, we drive a lot of digital activity very, very easily. And so I think all big companies have big aspirations in digital, because it's very easy for us to drive that behaviour. In terms of brand extensions like the Smooth Festival of Chocolate, again, using the leverage of your big broadcast audience to build a fantastic event, 112,000 people into the Rocks of Sydney over 2 days in its second year, 60% more people than last year. It really does show how powerful radio licenses are and what they can do in terms of building their brands beyond just what comes out of the speakers.
And what are revenues in the sector like now, and what's the outlook there?
Well, I think because of that dynamic, that we can be much more than just audio, sectors are very, very strong. So if you look at the established mediums, radio is one of the strongest performing mediums. And at 5.6% growth year to date, it's well ahead of many of what the forecast said. And I was talking to someone about this yesterday in an agency. They said, I'll tell you why radio's doing well. It works. You know, it has a fantastic way to drive behaviour, call to action. And in a really crowded marketplace where there's so many places that a marketer needs to put an advertising message, radio can be the great amplifier of those messages. So I think we've got a really nice strategic fit in a pretty fragmented marketing landscape, and it's our job to tell that story. And I think, to your point about good competition, good brands, the better our product is, the better the job we do for advertisers and the better the story we take to the market. So hopefully all of those things are coming together and the growth is there to be seen.
Fantastic. Cathy O'Connor, thanks so much for joining us on the program. We really appreciate it. Cathy O'Connor there, the CEO of Nova Entertainment. We're going to turn now to media stocks, and TPG Telecom has reported its full year results this week, revealing its 7th consecutive year of growth, and it comes as the telco works to integrate iiNet into its business following its recent acquisition. Let's get more on what this could mean for media consumers with Evan Lucas joining us from IG. First of all, Evan, just give us your take on those numbers and that insight we got this week into the company.
Very, very solid numbers indeed, Kate, coming out of TPG. David Teo continues to show very clearly that their broadband and broadband bundle growth is the key driver of TPG. And if you have a look at their EBITDA, that's the one that they look very closely. They beat their own expectations, coming in at $484 million compared to their estimates that they had at around about 470 to 482. So very solid. Saw good corporate growth numbers as well, and they are really taking on Telstra in that space. So they are clearly seeing some good numbers. The interesting part from the media side is obviously the integration of iiNet. This week they've allowed Fetch TV to start up again. It is a loss-making business of part of iiNet, and that is something to be aware of. He is not overly enthralled with bringing Fetch TV along with him. What he is excited about, however, is the uptake of things like Netflix, and clearly that is his sort of process into the future, and that's what FY16 will certainly be concentrating on, is the integration of broadband and bundle networks into that multimedia space and really driving online content consumption in a big, big way.
All right, Evan Lucas from IG, thanks so much for joining us. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Kate.
Well, coming up on Media Week, Instagram hits a major milestone. Plus, we take a look at the most powerful moguls in the media industry. Stay with us.